Harlem, 1947. 3 o'clock in the morning. The streets are quiet except for the sound of a truck engine idling in an alley off 142nd Street. 6 men are tied to the back of that truck, bound with rope, gagged, their eyes wide with terror as they realize what's about to happen. Bumpy Johnson stands in front of them, his face a mask of cold fury. He doesn't say a word, doesn't need to. These men know why they're here. They know what they did. They killed the only man Bumpy Johnson ever called brother. And now they're going to pay. Bumpy nods to the driver. The truck lurches forward, slowly at first, then faster. The screams are muffled by the gags, but you can hear them trying, begging, praying. The truck drags them through the streets of Harlem, block after block, concrete tearing flesh from bone, blood painting the asphalt like a trail of breadcrumbs. By the time the truck stops, there's nothing left but meat and broken bones. Harlem wakes up that morning to a message written in blood: don't touch what belongs to Bumpy Johnson. But to understand how it got to this point, to understand why the most dangerous man in Harlem committed the most brutal act of revenge the city had ever seen, you have to go back. Back to when Bumpy Johnson wasn't alone. Back to when he had a brother. Harlem, 1925. Bumpy Johnson is 19 years old and barely surviving. He's been in New York for 5 years, working odd jobs, running numbers, doing whatever it takes to eat. He's alone, no family, no friends, just survival. Until he meets Willie "Red" Jackson. Red is 22, tall, lean, with skin the color of burnt copper, hence the nickname. He's from Georgia, fled north after killing a white man who tried to lynch his father. Like Bumpy, he's a refugee from the South. Like Bumpy, he's angry at the world. They meet in a dice game in a basement on Lenox Avenue. Bumpy is dealing. Red is playing. And when 3 men try to rob the game, Bumpy and Red end up fighting them off together. Back to back, fists flying, blood on their knuckles. When it's over, the would-be robbers are unconscious on the floor. Bumpy and Red are standing, breathing hard, looking at each other with something like recognition. "You fight pretty good for a skinny kid," Red says, grinning. Bumpy grins back, "You ain't so bad yourself." And just like that, a bond is formed. Over the next months, they become inseparable, brothers in everything but blood. They run numbers together, work as enforcers together, watch each other's backs in a world where trust is rarer than gold. Red is everything Bumpy isn't. Where Bumpy is cold and calculating, Red is warm and impulsive. Where Bumpy thinks 3 steps ahead, Red acts on instinct. Where Bumpy holds grudges forever, Red forgives easily. But they balance each other, Bumpy's strategy, Red's heart. They make a perfect team. One night, they're sitting on a fire escape, sharing a bottle of whiskey, looking out over Harlem. "You ever think about going back?" Red asks. "To the South, I mean." Bumpy shakes his head. "Nothing there but ghosts and ropes." Red nods. "Same, but sometimes I wonder what it'd be like to go back strong, to make them pay for what they did." Bumpy looks at him. "We make them pay by surviving, by building something they can't touch. That's the real revenge." Red smiles. "You're smarter than you look, Bumpy." "And you're dumber than you look, Red." They both laugh. 2 young men with nothing but each other and a dream that maybe, just maybe, they can carve out a piece of this city for themselves. They make a pact that night, a promise. "Whatever happens," Red says, "we stick together, no matter what." Bumpy clasps his hand. "Brothers." "Brothers," Red agrees. And they mean it. The years pass. Bumpy and Red rise through the Harlem underworld together. They work for Stephanie St. Clair, the queen of Harlem's numbers racket. She sees potential in both of them, takes them under her wing, teaches them the game. But it's clear to everyone who knows them, Bumpy is the strategist, Red is the enforcer. When Dutch Schultz's men start muscling into Harlem in the early 30s, Bumpy and Red are on the front lines, fighting back, refusing to bow. They become legends together. People tell stories about the time Red walked into a room full of Schultz's men, alone, and walked out without a scratch. About the time Bumpy orchestrated an ambush that took out 5 of Schultz's top enforcers in a single night. About the time the two of them, together, faced down a dozen armed men and didn't blink. They're not just partners, they're brothers, and everyone in Harlem knows it. Bumpy trusts Red with his life, and Red trusts Bumpy the same. But trust is a dangerous thing in the underworld, because betrayal always comes from the people you love most. 1935, the war with Dutch Schultz is escalating. Bodies are dropping on both sides. Harlem is a battlefield, and Bumpy and Red are in the thick of it. One night, they're supposed to hit one of Schultz's gambling dens together. But at the last minute, Bumpy gets word that Stephanie needs him for something else. "You good to handle this alone?" Bumpy asks Red. Red grins. "Please, I could do this in my sleep." Bumpy clasps his shoulder. "Be careful." "Always am," Red says. It's the last time they see each other standing. The hit goes bad. Red walks into the gambling den with 3 of their men, but Schultz's crew is waiting. It's a trap. Gunfire erupts. 2 of Bumpy's men go down immediately. Red fights like a demon, taking out 3 of Schultz's men before a bullet catches him in the shoulder. He keeps fighting, keeps moving, gets another one. But there are too many. They beat him down, break his ribs, shatter his jaw. And then they drag him out back and execute him. 2 bullets to the head. Willie Red Jackson, Bumpy's brother, his partner, his only family, is dead at 28. When Bumpy gets the news, he's in a policy bank counting money. One of his runners bursts in, out of breath, eyes wild. "Bumpy, it's Red. They killed him." The room goes silent. Bumpy doesn't move, doesn't speak, just stares at the runner like he's speaking a foreign language. "What?" His voice is barely a whisper. "Schultz's men, they ambushed him. He's dead, Bumpy. Red's dead." The money slips from Bumpy's hands, fluttering to the floor like dead leaves. He stands there for a long moment, silent, frozen. And then something inside him breaks. He doesn't scream, doesn't cry, doesn't rage. He just goes cold. Colder than anyone's ever seen him. "Who?" he asks, his voice like ice. "What?" "Who killed him? Names." The runner swallows hard. We don't know all of them, but we got some. Tommy Riggs, Eddie Malone, a few others." "Get me all the names," Bumpy interrupts. "I want to know everyone who was there, everyone who touched him, everyone who pulled a trigger." "Bumpy, there were at least 6, maybe 7. I said get me the names." The runner nods and flees. Bumpy stands alone in the policy bank, staring at nothing. Red is dead. His brother is dead. And the world is about to learn what happens when you take something from Bumpy Johnson. That night, Bumpy goes to the morgue to identify the body. Red's face is barely recognizable, beaten beyond recognition, 2 bullet holes in his skull. Bumpy stands over him, silent, his fists clenched so tight his nails draw blood from his palms. The morgue attendant, sensing the danger radiating off this man, wisely stays quiet. After a long moment, Bumpy reaches out and touches Red's cold hand. "I'm sorry, brother," he whispers. "I should have been there." And then louder like a vow, "But I'm going to make this right, every single one of them, I promise you." He turns and walks out. Behind him, the attendant exhales in relief. But in Harlem, word is already spreading. Bumpy Johnson is on the warpath. And God help anyone who gets in his way. Over the next week, Bumpy does something he's never done before. He stops everything, all business, all operations, all distractions. He has one goal: find the men who killed Red. He puts the word out on the street, offers money, threatens violence, calls in every favor he's ever earned. And slowly the names come in. Tommy Riggs, Eddie Malone, Frank the Hammer Caruso, Johnny Sullivan, Mickey Doyle, and the leader, a sadistic enforcer named Vincent Vinny Costanza. 6 men. 6 men who ambushed Red, who beat him, who executed him. Bumpy writes their names in a notebook, stares at them like they're a grocery list. And then he starts planning. Not a quick kill, not a simple execution. Something else. Something that will send a message so loud, so brutal, that no one will ever forget it. Junie Bayard, one of Bumpy's most trusted men, comes to him one night. "Bumpy, what do you need from us?" Bumpy looks up from the notebook. His eyes are empty, dead. "I need you to help me catch 6 men, alive." Junie hesitates. "Alive?" "Alive," Bumpy confirms. "I want them breathing when I get them. What happens after, that's between me and them." Junie nods slowly, and then. Bumpy's smile is terrifying, cold, inhuman. "And then I'm going to teach them what happens when you kill my brother." The hunt begins. And in the alleys of Harlem, 6 men who thought they were untouchable are about to learn that they made the worst mistake of their lives. Because Bumpy Johnson doesn't forgive. And he never forgets. The hunt begins at dawn. Bumpy Johnson doesn't sleep, hasn't slept since Red died. He sits in his apartment with a map of Harlem spread across the table marking locations, known hangouts, safe houses, places where Schultz's men drink, gamble, operate. 6 red X's on the map, 6 names in his notebook. Tommy Riggs, Eddie Malone, Frank the Hammer Caruso, Johnny Sullivan, Mickey Doyle, Vincent Vinny Costanza. One by one, he's going to find them all. And one by one, they're going to pay. But this isn't about revenge in the heat of passion. This is calculated, methodical, cold. Bumpy calls in his most trusted men. Junie Bayard, Nat Pettigrew, Cadillac Red, no relation to Willie but loyal to the bone, a dozen others. They gather in the basement of a funeral parlor, appropriate given what's about to happen. Bumpy stands at the head of the table, his face carved from stone. "Red was my brother," he says quietly. "He was one of us, and they took him from us." The room is silent. These men knew Red, fought beside him, loved him. "I'm going to find every man who was there that night," Bumpy continues. "And I'm going to make them suffer, but I need your help. I need eyes, ears, information. And when we find them, I need them brought to me alive." Junie speaks up. "Alive, Bumpy, it'd be easier to just." "Alive," Bumpy interrupts, his voice sharp as a knife. "Dead is too easy, too quick. I want them to know what's coming. I want them to feel it." The men nod. They've never seen Bumpy like this cold, this focused, this dangerous. "Find them," Bumpy says, "and bring them to me." The first target is Tommy Riggs. Riggs is a low-level enforcer for Schultz, a brawler, not a thinker. He's been bragging about Red's death in the speakeasies, telling anyone who'll listen how he put that uppity in the ground. It makes him easy to find. 2 nights after Red's funeral, Riggs is drinking at a bar on 138th Street. He's loud, drunk, surrounded by Schultz's men, feeling invincible. He doesn't notice the 3 men who walk in and take seats at the bar, doesn't notice them watching him. Doesn't notice when they follow him out into the alley, when he steps outside to relieve himself. The attack is swift, professional. 1 man grabs him from behind. Another slams a fist into his kidney. The third puts a gun to his head. "Make a sound and you're dead," Junie Bayard whispers. Riggs tries to fight, but he's drunk and outnumbered. They drag him into a waiting car and drive him to a warehouse in the Bronx. When Bumpy walks in an hour later, Riggs is tied to a chair, bleeding from his nose, terror in his eyes. Bumpy doesn't say a word, just stares at him. "Look, man, I don't know what this is about," Riggs starts. Bumpy hits him, once, hard. Riggs's head snaps back and he spits blood. "You know exactly what this is about," Bumpy says quietly. "Willie Jackson, Red, you were there." Riggs's eyes go wide. That was just businessman, Schultz's orders. Bumpy hits him again, and again, and again. By the time he stops, Riggs is sobbing, begging for mercy. But mercy is not on the menu tonight. "You're going to stay here," Bumpy says calmly, wiping blood off his knuckles. "And you're going to think about what you did, and when I come back with the others, you're all going to pay together." He turns to Junie. "Keep him alive, don't let him escape. Don't let him die, just keep him here." Junie nods. Bumpy walks out, leaving Riggs's screams echoing in the empty warehouse. 1 down, 5 to go. The second is Eddie Malone. Malone is smarter than Riggs. He knows word is spreading that Bumpy's hunting them. He goes into hiding, moving from safe house to safe house, never staying in one place too long. But everyone has a weakness. For Malone, it's his girlfriend, a showgirl named Dolores who works at the Cotton Club. Bumpy's men find her first. They don't hurt her, don't threaten her, they just offer her money. A lot of money. "Tell us where Eddie is," they say, "and you'll never have to work another day in your life." Dolores hesitates, but Eddie's been rough with her lately, paranoid, violent. And the money is tempting. She talks. 3 days later, Bumpy's crew kicks in the door of a tenement in the Bronx. Malone tries to run, tries to fight, but he's no match for 4 armed men. They drag him, kicking and screaming, to the same warehouse where Riggs is being held. When Malone sees Riggs, beaten, broken, terrified, he starts begging immediately. "Please, man, please. I got money, I can pay you." Bumpy doesn't even look at him, just nods to his men. They tie Malone to a chair next to Riggs. 2 down, 4 to go. Frank the Hammer Caruso is next. Caruso is a vicious enforcer. He earned his nickname by beating men to death with a hammer. He's dangerous, unpredictable, and he's not hiding. He doesn't think Bumpy has the guts to come after him. Big mistake. Bumpy doesn't send his men this time. He goes himself. He finds Caruso at a gambling den on the Lower East Side, surrounded by his crew, counting money from the night's take. Bumpy walks in alone, unarmed, hands in his pockets. The room goes quiet. Everyone recognizes him. Caruso looks up, smirks. Well, Bumpy Johnson, heard you were looking for me." "I am," Bumpy says calmly. "You got some balls walking in here alone," Caruso says, standing. He's a big man, 6'3", 250 pounds of muscle. "You know who I am." "I know exactly who you are," Bumpy says. "You're the man who helped kill my brother." Caruso's smirk widens. "That's right, and it was beautiful. Watched him bleed out like a stuck pig." The room tenses. Everyone can feel the violence building. Bumpy doesn't move, doesn't blink, just stares at Caruso with those dead, cold eyes. "You're coming with me," Bumpy says. Caruso laughs. "Like hell I am. Boys, throw this fool out." He doesn't finish the sentence. Because Bumpy's men, 10 of them, burst through the doors and windows simultaneously. Guns drawn, faces hard. The gambling den erupts in chaos. Caruso's men reach for weapons, but they're outnumbered and outgunned. Gunfire, screaming, blood. When the smoke clears, 3 of Caruso's men are dead. The rest are on the floor, surrendering. And Caruso, the Hammer himself, is on his knees, a gun pressed to the back of his head. Bumpy walks over and looks down at him. "I told you," he says quietly, "you're coming with me." Caruso is dragged to the warehouse. When he sees Riggs and Malone, both broken, both terrified, the realization hits him. Bumpy isn't just killing them. He's collecting them. 3 down, 3 to go. Johnny Sullivan is a coward. The moment he hears what's happening, that Bumpy is hunting them one by one, he tries to flee the city. He packs a bag, empties his bank account, and heads to Grand Central Station to catch a train to Boston. But Bumpy's network is extensive. Someone spots him, makes a call. By the time Sullivan reaches the platform, Bumpy's men are waiting. They grab him between two train cars. No witnesses, no fuss. He doesn't even have time to scream. 4 down, 2 to go. Mickey Doyle is drunk when they find him. He's been drinking himself into oblivion for days, haunted by nightmares of Red's death. He pulled the trigger, twice, put 2 bullets in Red's head. And now he can't sleep, can't eat, can't function. He's not hard to catch. Bumpy's men find him passed out in a flophouse on the Lower East Side. They carry him out like a sack of potatoes. When he wakes up in the warehouse, tied to a chair next to 4 other terrified men, he starts crying. "I'm sorry," he sobs. "I'm so sorry, I didn't want to. Schultz made me." Bumpy walks in, looks at him with disgust. "Save it," he says. 5 down, 1 to go. Vincent Vinny Costanza is the hardest to find. He's the leader, the one who planned the ambush, the one who gave the order to execute Red. And he's smart. The moment he heard Bumpy was hunting them, he disappeared, went underground. No one's seen him in weeks. But Bumpy is patient, relentless. He puts pressure on everyone Vinny knows, threatens his family, burns down his businesses, offers massive rewards for information. And finally, someone talks. Vinny is hiding in a farmhouse in New Jersey, lying low, waiting for things to blow over. But things aren't going to blow over. Bumpy and a dozen men drive out there in the middle of the night. They surround the farmhouse, cut the phone lines, block the roads. There's no escape. When they kick in the door, Vinny is sitting at a kitchen table, gun in hand, looking like he hasn't slept in weeks. He raises the gun. Bumpy doesn't flinch. "Go ahead," Bumpy says quietly. "Pull the trigger, but you know what happens next. My men kill you, quick, painless, and you never answer for what you did." Vinny's hand shakes. Or, Bumpy continues, "You put the gun down, come with me, and face what's coming like a man." It's not really a choice. Vinny knows it. He lowers the gun. They drag him to the warehouse. And when the door opens and Vinny sees the other 5, Riggs, Malone, Caruso, Sullivan, Doyle, all tied up, all terrified, all waiting, he finally understands. Bumpy didn't just want them dead. He wanted them together. All 6 of them. Bumpy stands in front of the 6 men. They're tied to chairs, lined up in a row like a grotesque lineup. Some are crying, some are begging, some are just staring in shock. Bumpy doesn't say anything for a long time, just looks at them. Then quietly, "You killed my brother." Silence. "You beat him, you tortured him, you executed him, and then you laughed about it." Vinny tries to speak. It was just. "Shut up," Bumpy says, and Vinny goes silent. Bumpy walks down the line, looking each man in the eye. "Red was the only family I had, the only person who ever stood by me, and you took him from me." He stops in front of Mickey Doyle, the one who pulled the trigger. "You don't get a quick death," Bumpy says. "You don't get mercy, you get what you deserve." He turns to his men. "Get the truck." The warehouse goes silent, except for the sound of muffled sobbing. "No, no, please," Tommy Riggs starts, but Junie Byad backhands him across the face. "Shut your mouth," Junie says coldly. Outside, an engine roars to life, the sound of a heavy truck pulling up to the warehouse doors. The 6 men start thrashing against their restraints. Panic sets in, real primal terror. Because they're starting to understand what's about to happen. Bumpy watches them with empty eyes. No satisfaction, no rage, just cold, mechanical purpose. Red is dead, and the debt must be paid. "Please, Bumpy," Eddie Malone begs, tears streaming down his face. "We were just following orders. Schultz told us to." Following orders, Bumpy repeats flatly. He walks over to Malone, leans down until they're face to face. Red begged too. Did you listen? Malone can't answer, just sobs. Bumpy straightens up. Get them ready. His men move with practiced efficiency. They untie the men from the chairs but keep their hands bound behind their backs. Keep them gagged so the screaming won't draw attention. One by one, they're dragged outside into the cold night air. The truck sits there, engine idling. It's a heavy flatbed, the kind used for hauling construction materials. Chains and rope are coiled in the back. Frank the Hammer Caruso tries to fight, tries to break free, but with his hands tied and 4 men holding him, he doesn't stand a chance. They beat him down, then drag him to the truck. Bumpy supervises it all with the detachment of a foreman overseeing a construction project. Space them out, he says. I want them evenly distributed, don't want the truck pulling to one side. His men nod. They understand. This isn't about cruelty for cruelty's sake. This is about making sure all 6 men suffer equally. The process is methodical, horrifying. They tie each man to the back of the truck with heavy rope, thick nautical rope, the kind that won't snap no matter how much weight pulls against it. They start with Tommy Riggs on the far left. Wrap the rope around his torso, his arms, his legs. Make sure he can't slip free. Then Eddie Malone next to him. Then Frank Caruso, Johnny Sullivan, Mickey Doyle. And finally, Vincent Costanza on the far right. 6 men tied to one truck. The spacing is careful, about 3 feet between each man, close enough that they can see each other, far enough that they can't help each other. Not that it would matter. Vinny Costanza, through his gag, is trying to scream, trying to say something. His eyes are wild, tears streaming down his face. Bumpy walks over to him, pulls the gag down just enough so he can speak. Please, Vinny gasps. Please, I got money, I got connections, I can make this right. Make this right, Bumpy's voice is barely above a whisper. You can bring Red back. I can. Can you bring him back? Bumpy repeats louder now. Vinny can't answer. Bumpy pulls the gag back up. That's what I thought. He walks to each man, one by one, makes sure they see his face, makes sure they understand who's doing this to them and why. When he reaches Mickey Doyle, the one who actually pulled the trigger, he stops. Mickey is praying, the Lord's Prayer muffled through the gag. Bumpy listens for a moment, then leans in close. God's not listening tonight, he whispers. Mickey's eyes roll back. He's going into shock. Bumpy doesn't care. He walks to the front of the truck. The driver, a hard man named Samuel who's been with Bumpy for years, sits behind the wheel, waiting for orders. You know the route? Bumpy asks. Samuel nods. Yeah, through Harlem, slow, make sure everyone sees. Good. Bumpy pulls out a cigarette, lights it, takes a long drag. When you're done, dump what's left in the river. Let Schultz fish them out. Samuel nods again. Bumpy takes one last look at the 6 men tied to the back of the truck. They're all struggling now, all trying to scream through the gags, all realizing that this is really happening. There's no escape, no reprieve, no mercy. Just blood and concrete and death. Do it, Bumpy says. Samuel shifts the truck into gear. The men tied to the back start thrashing harder, panic consuming them completely. The truck begins to roll forward. Slowly at first, 5 miles per hour, just enough to pull the men off their feet. They stumble, try to keep up, try to run alongside the truck. But the rope is too short, their legs can't move fast enough. One by one they fall. Tommy Riggs goes down first, his face slamming into the asphalt. The truck drags him forward, his body scraping against the rough pavement. Then Eddie Malone, then Frank Caruso. Within seconds, all 6 are being dragged. And Samuel presses the accelerator. The truck speeds up, 10 miles per hour, 15, 20. The sound is horrific. meat dragging against concrete, muffled screaming, bones breaking. Bumpy stands there and watches until the truck turns the corner and disappears into the Harlem night. Then he turns and walks away. The truck takes a specific route through Harlem. Samuel drives down Lenox Avenue, slow enough that people can see what's happening, fast enough that the men tied to the back are being shredded. It's 3 in the morning, but Harlem never truly sleeps. People are out, walking home from speakeasies, standing on corners, working late shifts. And they see it. A truck dragging 6 screaming men through the streets. Some people freeze in shock, others run. A few just stare, unable to process what they're witnessing. Word spreads like wildfire. By the time the truck turns onto 125th Street, crowds are gathering, people coming out of their apartments to see what the commotion is about. They see the truck, see the blood trail, see the 6 bodies, barely recognizable now, being dragged behind it. And they understand. This is Bumpy Johnson's revenge. The truck continues its route, down 138th Street where Red was killed, past the gambling den where the ambush happened. A message written in blood and broken bones. By the time the truck reaches the Harlem River, there's not much left. The 6 men are dead, have been dead for blocks, but their bodies are still tied to the truck, still being dragged, still leaving a trail of gore behind them. Samuel backs the truck up to the edge of the river, gets out, cuts the ropes. The bodies, what's left of them, slide into the dark water with barely a splash. Samuel gets back in the truck and drives away. By dawn, all of Harlem knows what happened. The story spreads through the neighborhood like a plague. 6 men, 1 truck, dragged through the streets until there was nothing left but meat and bone. People whisper Bumpy's name with a mixture of fear and awe. Some think he went too far, that the brutality was excessive, monstrous. Others think it was justified, that anyone who kills a man's brother deserves whatever they get. But everyone agrees on one thing: you don't cross Bumpy Johnson. The police find the bodies that afternoon. What's left of them anyway? The Harlem River gives up its dead slowly, pieces washing up on the shore over the next few days. Partial torsos, limbs, a skull with rope burns around the neck. The detectives who catch the case are white. They don't care much about dead gangsters in Harlem, but the brutality of it forces them to investigate. They question witnesses, but nobody talks, nobody saw anything, nobody knows anything. In Harlem, snitches end up in the river too. The case goes nowhere. Dutch Schultz hears about it within hours. He's in his office in the Bronx when one of his lieutenants bursts in, pale and shaking. "Boss, it's Vinny and the others, they're dead." "What?" Schultz looks up from his ledger. "Bumpy Johnson. He killed all 6 of them, tied them to a truck and dragged them through Harlem." Schultz's face goes red. "He what?" The lieutenant explains, every brutal detail. When he's finished, Schultz is silent for a long moment. Then he starts laughing. Not amusement, not joy, something darker, more unhinged. "That crazy bastard," he says, shaking his head. "That crazy, stupid bastard. Does he have any idea what he just did?" "Boss, what do you want us to?" "Nothing," Schultz interrupts. "We do nothing." The lieutenant blinks. "Nothing, but boss, he killed 6 of our men. And if we retaliate, he'll kill 12 more, and then we'll kill 12 of his, and it'll never stop." Schultz leans back in his chair. "No, we let this one go." "But—" "I said we let it go." Schultz slams his fist on the desk. "Bumpy Johnson just declared himself the most dangerous man in Harlem, and right now I got bigger problems than a grief-stricken Negro with a death wish." The lieutenant nods, uncertain. But Schultz is already moving on, calculating, planning. Because what the lieutenant doesn't understand, what most people don't understand, is that Bumpy just made himself untouchable. Anyone who would tie 6 men to a truck and drag them through the streets is someone you don't mess with. Not unless you're ready to die in the most horrific way imaginable. But not everyone in New York sees it that way. The Italian Mafia, Lucky Luciano, Mayor Lansky, Frank Costello, they hear about it too. And they're concerned. They call a meeting, neutral ground, a restaurant in Little Italy. Bumpy is summoned. He arrives alone, no guns, no backup. Just confidence. He walks into the back room, where the three most powerful mobsters in New York are waiting. Luciano speaks first. "Bumpy, we heard about what you did." "I imagine everyone's heard by now," Bumpy says calmly. 6 men tied to a truck, dragged through the streets like animals. Luciano's voice is neutral, impossible to read. "That's creative. They killed my brother. We know, and we understand revenge. But what you did, that kind of spectacle draws attention. Police attention, federal attention, the kind of attention that's bad for business." Bumpy meets his gaze. "With respect, I don't care about your business right now." The room goes cold. Mayor Lansky leans forward. "You should care, Bumpy, because your business is our business, and when you make that much noise, it affects all of us." "Then maybe," Bumpy says quietly, "Schultz shouldn't have killed Red." Frank Costello, who's been silent until now, speaks up. "He's got a point. Schultz's men crossed a line." Bumpy responded, "Message sent. Maybe it's time to move on." Luciano considers this. "And what if someone decides to avenge those 6 men?" Bumpy's smile is cold. "Let them try." There's a long silence. Then Luciano nods slowly. "All right, we'll let it stand, but Bumpy, no more trucks, no more public executions. You want revenge, you do it quiet. Understood?" "Understood," Bumpy says. But they both know he's lying. If someone crosses him again, if someone hurts what's his, there will be blood. There will always be blood. Bumpy walks out of the restaurant into the New York night. Behind him, the 3 mobsters watch him go. "He's dangerous," Lansky says. "Very," Costello agrees. Luciano lights a cigar. "He's also useful. As long as he keeps Harlem in line, we let him operate, but if he becomes a problem..." He doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. The weeks after the truck become a legend. People talk about it in whispers, in barbershops, in speakeasies, on street corners. The story grows with each telling. Some say there were 10 men tied to the truck. Others say Bumpy dragged them all the way to the Bronx. But the truth is horrific enough. 6 men, 1 truck, a trail of blood through Harlem. And Bumpy Johnson's name becomes something more than just a name. It becomes a warning. But legends come with a price. Bumpy knows this. He's always known this. Every action has consequences. Every show of force creates new enemies. And the truck, that was the biggest show of force Harlem has ever seen. Now he has to live with what comes next. The first consequence is psychological. Bumpy can't sleep, hasn't slept properly in weeks. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees Red's face, hears his laugh, remembers their promises to each other. Brothers forever. But Red is gone, and the revenge Bumpy took, as brutal as it was, doesn't bring him back. Nothing will. Late at night, alone in his apartment, Bumpy sits by the window with a bottle of whiskey. He doesn't get drunk, just sips slowly, staring out at the Harlem streets. Mame, his girlfriend, the woman who's been with him through everything, tries to comfort him. "You did what you had to do," she says softly, her hand on his shoulder. "Did I?" Bumpy's voice is hollow. "Or did I just become the monster they always said I was? Those men killed Red. They deserved what they got." "Maybe," Bumpy takes another sip, "but that doesn't make it easier." Mame doesn't have an answer for that. Because the truth is, revenge never makes anything easier. It just creates new wounds on top of the old ones. The second consequence is practical. Bumpy's relationship with Dutch Schultz, already violent, already hostile, has reached a breaking point. Schultz told his men to stand down after the truck, but that doesn't mean he's forgotten. It doesn't mean he's forgiven. It just means he's waiting, calculating, planning his own revenge. And Bumpy knows it. He increases security, travels with armed guards, never stays in the same place 2 nights in a row. He's always looking over his shoulder, always waiting for the retaliation. But weeks pass, then months, and nothing happens. Schultz is playing a different game now, a longer game. He's not going after Bumpy directly. He's going after Bumpy's operations, his money, his power. Schultz's men start hitting policy banks again, not the ones Bumpy controls directly. Those are too well protected. But the smaller operations, the independent runners who pay tribute to Bumpy. They rob them, beat them, send a message, Bumpy can't protect you. And slowly some of those runners switch allegiance, start paying Schultz instead. Bumpy loses territory, loses income, loses influence. The truck made him feared, but fear only gets you so far. One night, Junie Bayard comes to Bumpy with bad news. 3 more policy banks switched to Schultz this week, he says. They're scared, Bumpy. They think you're going to war with Schultz and they don't want to be in the crossfire. Bumpy slams his fist on the table. I already went to war with Schultz, and I won. Did you? Junie asks carefully. Because from where I'm sitting, he's bleeding us dry, and you're sitting here drinking whiskey instead of doing something about it. The words sting because they're true. Bumpy has been so consumed with grief, so focused on Red's death, that he's let his empire start to crumble. You're right, Bumpy says finally. Get the men together, it's time to push back. But pushing back isn't as simple as it used to be. Schultz has learned from the truck. He knows Bumpy is dangerous, so he's careful, strategic. He doesn't send his top men into Harlem anymore. He sends expendable foot soldiers, young, hungry kids from the Bronx who don't know any better. When Bumpy's crew hits back, they're not killing Schultz's lieutenants. They're killing cannon fodder. And for everyone they kill, Schultz recruits 2 more. It's a war of attrition, and Bumpy is losing. Then something unexpected happens. A meeting is called, not by Bumpy, not by Schultz. By the Commission, Lucky Luciano's organization. Luciano is tired of the violence, tired of the heat it brings. He wants peace in New York, or at least he wants controlled violence, violence that doesn't draw federal attention. The meeting is held in a warehouse in Brooklyn, neutral territory. Bumpy arrives with Junie and 2 other bodyguards. Schultz arrives with a small army. Luciano is already there, flanked by Mayor Lansky and Frank Costello. Gentlemen, Luciano says calmly, sit. Neither Bumpy nor Schultz move. Luciano sighs, I said sit. There's steel in his voice now, a reminder that he's not asking. Slowly they sit, opposite ends of a long table, staring at each other with pure hatred. This has to stop, Luciano says. You 2 have been at each other's throats for years, and it's bad for business. He killed 6 of my men, Schultz says, his voice shaking with rage. Tied them to a truck like dogs. Your men killed his brother, Luciano interrupts. And if we're being honest, Dutch, they had it coming. Schultz's face goes red. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Luciano leans forward. Your men ambushed and executed Willie Jackson. That wasn't business. That was personal, and Bumpy responded in kind. By dragging them through the streets. By sending a message, Luciano says. A message that was received loud and clear. You don't touch a man's family. Schultz looks like he's about to explode. But Mayor Lansky speaks up before he can. Here's the deal, gentlemen. You're both valuable to the Commission. You both make us money, but this war ends tonight. And how do you propose we do that? Bumpy asks quietly. Compromise, Costello says. Schultz backs off Harlem completely. No more shakedowns, no more muscle. Harlem is yours, Bumpy. Bumpy nods slowly, and in return, you stop killing Schultz's men. You work with us with the commission to keep the peace. We all make money together. No more wars. It's not a bad deal. In fact, it's more than Bumpy expected. But there's a catch. There's always a catch. What's the price? Bumpy asks. Luciano smiles. You answer to us. You run Harlem, but you do it under our umbrella, our protection, our rules. There it is. Bumpy would gain Harlem, but he'd lose his independence. He'd become a lieutenant, a subordinate. He looks at Schultz, who's still seething with rage but clearly under orders to accept the deal. Then he looks back at Luciano. I want one thing, Bumpy says. What? Schultz admits what his men did, out loud, right now. He admits they murdered Red in cold blood. The room goes silent. Schultz's jaw clenches, like hell. Do it, Luciano says sharply, or the deal's off and you both keep bleeding each other until there's nothing left. Schultz glares at Bumpy with pure venom. But after a long, tense moment, he speaks. My men killed Willie Jackson, he says through gritted teeth. They ambushed him, executed him. It was wrong. It's not an apology. It's barely even an admission. But it's enough. Bumpy nods, deal. Luciano exhales in relief. Good, then it's settled. Harlem belongs to Bumpy, no more interference from Schultz. And Bumpy, you work with us, understood. Understood, Bumpy says. But as he leaves that warehouse, he knows the truth. He's won Harlem, but he sold his soul to do it. He's no longer independent, no longer his own man. He's part of the machine now. The months that follow are strange. Bumpy consolidates power in Harlem. With Schultz officially backing off, he reclaims the territory he lost. The policy banks come back under his control. The runners pledge loyalty again. He's the undisputed king of Harlem. But it feels hollow. Red is still dead. The truck didn't change that. The deal with Luciano didn't change that. Nothing will change that. One evening, Bumpy visits Red's grave. It's the first time since the funeral. The headstone is simple. Willie Red Jackson, born 1903, died 1935. Bumpy stands there for a long time, hands in his pockets, staring at the name carved in stone. I did it, brother, he says quietly. I made them pay, all 6 of them, just like I promised. The wind rustles the trees. A bird calls somewhere in the distance. But it didn't bring you back. Nothing will. He kneels down, places his hand on the cold marble. I'm sorry I wasn't there that night. I'm sorry I let you walk into that trap alone, and I'm sorry I couldn't save you. His voice cracks slightly. You were right, Red, about everything, about building something that lasts, about being more than just gangsters. I wish I'd listened. He stands, wipes his eyes quickly. I'm going to try, though. I'm going to build something in Harlem, something that means something, not just for me, for all of us. It's a promise, to Red, to himself. And as Bumpy walks away from that grave, something shifts inside him. The rage that's consumed him since Red's death, the cold, brutal fury that led to the truck, begins to fade. Not disappear, never disappear, but transform into something else. Purpose. Red died because of senseless violence, because gangsters treated human lives like currency. Bumpy can't change that, can't bring Red back. But he can make sure Red's death meant something. He can build an empire in Harlem that's about more than just money, more than just power. An empire that protects its own. That night, Bumpy calls a meeting with his top men. Things are going to change, he tells them. We're not just gangsters anymore. We're going to be something more. Junie raises an eyebrow. What do you mean? I mean we protect Harlem, really protect it. Not just our operations, the people, the families, the businesses. We make sure nobody gets hurt like Red got hurt. That's going to cost money, Bumpy. Money we could be putting in our pockets. I don't care, Bumpy says. Red died for this neighborhood. The least we can do is honor that. The men look at each other uncertainly. But they nod. Because when Bumpy Johnson makes a promise, he keeps it. Even if it costs him everything. The legend of the truck spreads beyond Harlem. Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, New Jersey. Every gangster, every hustler, every street criminal in the New York area hears the story. And they all learn the same lesson: don't cross Bumpy Johnson. Years later, men will still talk about it in hushed tones. About the night 6 men died screaming. About the trail of blood through Harlem streets. About the brother who loved another brother so much that he turned revenge into an art form. And about Bumpy Johnson, the most dangerous man Harlem ever knew. The man who tied 6 men to one truck and made an entire city remember his name. The years pass. The truck becomes myth, urban legend, the kind of story old-timers tell young hustlers to scare them straight. You know what Bumpy Johnson did when they killed his brother. And the story gets told again, embellished, exaggerated. But the core truth remains. Bumpy Johnson loved his brother, and when that brother was taken from him, he made the world bleed. It's 1940 now, 5 years since the truck, 5 years since Red's death. Bumpy Johnson is 34 years old, and he's built exactly what he promised he would. An empire. Not just a criminal enterprise, though it's that too, but something more. A network of protection and power that covers Harlem like a blanket. He runs the numbers, controls the gambling, takes his cut from every racket north of 110th Street. But he also does other things. When a family can't pay rent, Bumpy pays it. When the cops try to shake down a shopkeeper, Bumpy intervenes. When kids need school supplies, Bumpy provides them. He's still a gangster, still ruthless when he needs to be, still capable of horrific violence. But he's also, strange as it sounds, a protector. The people of Harlem know this. They see him walking the streets in his expensive suits, tipping his hat to the grandmothers, giving money to the kids. They know what he is, what he's done. But they also know that when Bumpy Johnson is around, they're safe. And in Harlem, where safety is a rare commodity, that means everything. Still, the past has a way of catching up. The truck may have sent a message, but it also created enemies, people who remember, who hold grudges. Dutch Schultz is dead now, killed by the Commission in 1935, just months after the truck. But his organization lives on, and some of his men never forgave what Bumpy did. One of them is a man named Carmine, the Snake DeLuca. DeLuca was close to Vinnie Costanza, the leader of the 6 men Bumpy tied to the truck. He wasn't in Harlem that night they killed Red, so he escaped Bumpy's revenge. But he never forgot. For 5 years, DeLuca has been biding his time, working his way up in the Genovese family, building his own power base, waiting for the right moment. And now, in 1940, he thinks that moment has come. DeLuca doesn't go after Bumpy directly. He's smarter than that. He goes after what Bumpy loves. One night, a policy bank that Bumpy protects is hit. Not robbed, firebombed. 3 people die in the flames, including a woman named Dorothy Hayes. Dorothy was a fixture in Harlem, a grandmother who ran a small grocery store and helped operate the policy bank on the side. Everyone knew her. Everyone loved her. Bumpy knew her too, had known her for 15 years. When he gets the news, he's in a restaurant having dinner with Mame. Junie Bayard rushes in, face pale. Bumpy, it's Dorothy, her place was hit, firebombed, she's dead. The fork slips from Bumpy's hand, clattering on the plate. What? Someone torched her policy bank. She was inside when it went up. She didn't make it out. Bumpy stands slowly. His face is a mask, but Mame can see it, the rage building beneath the surface. That old, familiar rage. Who? Bumpy's voice is deadly quiet. We don't know yet, but whoever it was, they knew what they were doing. Professional job. Bumpy closes his eyes, takes a deep breath. Dorothy Hayes, dead. Another person he cared about. Another life taken because of this endless cycle of violence. Find out who did it, Bumpy says. I don't care what it takes, find them. Within 48 hours, they have answers. Carmen DeLuca, working with what's left of Schultz's old crew. The firebombing was revenge, delayed revenge for the truck. An eye for an eye. When Bumpy hears the name DeLuca, something clicks. DeLuca, he says slowly. He was close to Costanza, wasn't he? Junie nods. Yeah, they grew up together. DeLuca's been with the Genovese family for years, but word is he never got over what you did to Vinny. Bumpy's jaw tightens. So he killed Dorothy, an innocent woman, to get back at me. Looks that way. The rage Bumpy thought he'd buried, the rage that led to the truck, comes roaring back. But this time it's different. This time there's calculation behind it, strategy. Because Bumpy has learned something in the 5 years since Red died. Revenge is empty if it's just about death. If you want revenge to mean something, you have to destroy everything your enemy values. Not just kill them, unmake asterisk them. I want to know everything about DeLuca, Bumpy says. His businesses, his family, his friends, everything he cares about, everything he's built. Junie understands. You're not just going to kill him. No, Bumpy says, I'm going to erase him. Over the next weeks, Bumpy orchestrates a campaign of systematic destruction. He doesn't touch DeLuca directly, not yet. First, he goes after DeLuca's operations. His gambling dens get raided. Anonymous tips to the police ensure they're shut down. His loan-sharking customers get paid off. Bumpy offers them money to settle their debts, cutting off DeLuca's income. His protection rackets fall apart when Bumpy's men offer better protection for free. Within a month, DeLuca is hemorrhaging money. Then Bumpy goes after his reputation. Word spreads through the underworld, carefully planted rumors, that DeLuca is an informant, that he's been talking to the feds, that he can't be trusted. It's all lies, but in the underworld, perception is reality. DeLuca's allies start distancing themselves. His boss in the Genovese family starts asking questions. His crew starts looking at him sideways. Everything he's built over 5 years begins to crumble. And DeLuca knows exactly who's behind it. He tries to strike back, sends men after Bumpy's operations. But Bumpy's too careful, too protected. Every attack is anticipated, countered, turned back on DeLuca with interest. Finally, desperate and alone, DeLuca makes a mistake. He comes to Harlem himself, with a gun, looking for Bumpy. Looking for a confrontation. He finds it. Bumpy is waiting for him in a warehouse on the edge of Harlem, the same warehouse where he once held the 6 men before the truck. DeLuca walks in, gun drawn, expecting a fight. Instead, he finds Bumpy sitting alone, unarmed, just waiting. You wanted to see me, Bumpy says calmly. DeLuca's gun shakes in his hand. You destroyed everything, everything I built. Like you destroyed Dorothy Hayes, Bumpy interrupts, an innocent woman who never did anything to you. She was part of your operation. She was a grandmother, a shopkeeper, someone who helped her community survive. DeLuca's face twists. You killed Vinny, you tied him to a truck like an animal. Vinny killed my brother, Bumpy says, his voice hard as steel. He ambushed Red, tortured him, executed him. What happened to Vinny, to all 6 of them, was justice. Justice? DeLuca laughs bitterly. You call that justice? I call it consequences, Bumpy says, just like what's about to happen to you. DeLuca raises the gun. I'm going to kill you, Bumpy, right here, right now. No, Bumpy says, you're not. Before DeLuca can pull the trigger, the warehouse doors burst open. Not Bumpy's men. Police. Federal agents. DeLuca spins around, confused as they swarm in. Guns drawn, badges flashing. Carmine DeLuca, you're under arrest for racketeering, extortion, arson, and murder. What? No, this is a setup. But the agents are already cuffing him, reading him his rights. DeLuca looks back at Bumpy, understanding dawning in his eyes. You set me up. Bumpy stands, straightens his jacket. I told you, consequences. As the agents drag DeLuca away, he screams, You're dead, Johnson, you hear me? Dead. But Bumpy just watches him go. No emotion, no satisfaction. Just cold certainty. Later that night, Junie asks the obvious question. How'd you get the feds involved? Bumpy takes a sip of whiskey. I didn't. Lucky Luciano did. I told him DeLuca killed Dorothy, an innocent civilian, and it was bringing heat to Harlem. Told him the feds were already sniffing around. Were they? They are now, Bumpy smiles slightly. Luciano made a call, gave them everything they needed to build a case against DeLuca, evidence, testimony, everything. So DeLuca goes to prison instead of the grave. Worse than the grave, Bumpy says. In prison, he'll rot. He'll have time to think about what he did, about how he lost everything because he couldn't let go of the past. Junie nods slowly. That's cold, Bumpy. That's justice, Bumpy corrects. But later, alone with Mame, Bumpy admits the truth. I wanted to kill him, he says quietly. Wanted to tie him to another truck, make him suffer like Dorothy suffered. But you didn't, Mame says. No, because that's not who I want to be anymore. Red died because of violence. Dorothy died because of revenge. If I keep feeding that cycle, more people die, more innocents. So what now? Bumpy looks out the window at Harlem, his kingdom, his responsibility. Now I protect what's mine, and I try to make sure nobody else has to die for my sins. It's a noble goal. But in Harlem, in the underworld, nobility is a luxury few can afford. The 40s roll on. Bumpy continues to consolidate power. He works with the Italian mob, Luciano, Costello, the Commission, but maintains his independence in Harlem. He's respected, feared, powerful. But the weight of it all begins to show. The truck, Dorothy, read all the deaths, all the violence. It accumulates, grinds him down. He starts making different choices. When conflicts arise, he looks for peaceful solutions first. He mediates disputes. He prevents wars instead of starting them. Some see it as weakness, as Bumpy going soft. But those who know him understand this isn't weakness, it's evolution. The most dangerous man in Harlem is learning that true power isn't about how many people you can kill. It's about how many you can save. The legend of the truck never dies. Even decades later, long after Bumpy's own death in 1968, people still tell the story. 6 men, 1 truck, a brother's revenge. It becomes a cautionary tale, a reminder, a piece of Harlem folklore. Some versions are accurate, others are wildly exaggerated. But all of them end the same way. Don't cross Bumpy Johnson, because if you kill what he loves, he'll tie you to a truck and drag you through hell. And in the barbershops, the corner stores, the late-night gatherings where old-timers share stories, they always add one more thing. But you know what's crazy? After all that, after the truck, after the revenge, Bumpy spent the rest of his life trying to protect people, trying to make sure nobody else had to die like Red died. What changed? He did. The truck didn't bring Red back, didn't make the pain go away. So Bumpy decided to honor Red a different way, by building something, by protecting Harlem. Did it work? For a while, but violence always comes home, always. And that's the truth of Bumpy Johnson's life. He was a protector and a destroyer, a hero and a villain, a man capable of horrific violence and unexpected compassion. The truck was his darkest moment, the culmination of grief and rage and love twisted into something monstrous. But it was also a turning point. After the truck, Bumpy tried to be better, to build instead of destroy, to protect instead of punish. He didn't always succeed, but he tried. And in Harlem, where trying is sometimes the best anyone can do, that counted for something. In the end, the story of the truck is really a story about love. A brother's love for another brother. So powerful that when it was taken away, it transformed into something terrible. 6 men paid the price for that love. And Bumpy Johnson spent the rest of his life trying to atone for what that love made him do. The streets remember. They remember the blood, the screams, the rope and the truck and the trail of broken bodies. They remember the most brutal act of revenge Harlem ever witnessed. But they also remember what came after. The protector, the builder, the man who tried to make Red's death mean something. And when old folks in Harlem talk about Bumpy Johnson, about his life, his crimes, his contradictions, they always end with the same words. He loved his brother, and that love made him the most dangerous man in New York. But it also made him something else. What? Human. The story ends where it began. An alley, a truck, 6 men bound and terrified. But this time we see it differently. Not as an act of evil, but as an act of grief. Bumpy Johnson standing there, watching the truck pull away, dragging 6 screaming men to their deaths. And in that moment he's not a gangster, not a killer. He's just a man who lost his brother. A man who promised to make it right. A man who kept that promise in the most horrific way imaginable. And then spent the rest of his life wondering if it was worth it. The answer: it wasn't. Revenge never is. But love, twisted, broken, desperate love, doesn't ask if it's worth it. It just demands payment. And Bumpy Johnson paid. In blood. In souls. In 6 men tied to one truck. And in every nightmare that followed him for the rest of his days. The end.